Hi, I'm Jennifer of Celtic Knot Crochet, and today in this video I'll be showing you how to make this Celtic Afghan square. The Celtic Afghan Square is block number 10 in the 2025 Moogly Crochet Along. This is my 5th Celtic Knot square that I've created for the Moogly Crochet Along, and you can see links to all the other squares in the description below. This is the full step-by-step tutorial that will take you through all stages of making this project. I'll show you the supplies I used, I'll show you how to make all these different parts, then I'll show you how to weave them together and then add all the stitches around the outside. If you like this video, make sure to give us a thumbs up and don't forget to click to subscribe. This is a free pattern that you'll find on my blog at celticknotcrochet.com. There you'll also find a free printable diagram for right-handers and left-handers to help you weave this knot. And if you need some help finding certain parts of this video, in the description below I'll include timestamps so you can skip ahead to whichever section you need the most help with. This square is 12 inches by 12 inches and I use medium weight acrylic yarn. And remember, if you have questions about this project, just leave it in the comments below and I'll get right back to you. Let's go over the supplies that are in our Celtic Afghan square. I used a medium weight acrylic yarn by Red Heart. They're Super Saver, and this color is Carrot. And then I really liked the colors in their new Flower Power Super Saver, basically. This one's called Rosy Disposition. And I liked how the lightest color in this colorway went with the carrot. So I went through this skein and just wound off a little bit of this light orange color. I thought it made a nice edging, and I didn't need to use a lot of this, so I have plenty left over for other projects. And then I wanted to have green going along with the orange, so I picked out Red Heart Super Saver in this pretty green tones. That's what it's called, and it has really short color changes, so it gives a nice mottled watercolor look when you do several rows in it. And these are all medium weight acrylic yarn. And I also used a size J or 6mm crochet hook. Of course, you can adjust the size of your hook based on the gauge and what size you would like your finished square to be. If you have really loose tension, you might want to go down 1 or 2 sizes so you don't have too many gaps in your project and your square doesn't end up too big. You'll also need a yarn needle, and it helps to check your gauge and your size of your square with measuring tape. You'll need some scissors, and I like to use stitch markers when we're making parts of this, and you'll need at least 12 for one of the sections we'll be using it. There are a couple more supplies that you'll need for weaving the Celtic knot, which we'll go over when we get to that part. Of course, all the supplies are listed in the description below with purchase links. Before we start our Celtic Afghan square, I wanted to review how this is all put together. So first we're going to crochet 3 cords that you can see here. There's 2 short ones that go across the middle, and then a much longer one that's woven kind of around the outside edge. We're going to crochet those, and then we're going to weave them together into this knot. Then we're going to add an edging all the way around with the green, and then we're going to add each corner with the green to create the total square shape so that the knot can be on the diagonal as opposed to like this. I liked how it looked like that, so that's what we're going to do. So let's get started on those cords. The first cord we're going to make is one of these two cords that you see cross and make kind of an X in the center. And we're going to make two of them. They're the same pattern for each. So we're calling this cord number 1. And then cord number 2 is the longer cord that goes around the outside, and we'll make that second. So what you want to figure out is which color you want the main part of your cord to be, and then which color you would like this slip stitch edging, and then which color you would like to frame the knot. So I'm only using 3 different colors, but you could decide to use more. It does look its best when all the cords are the same color, because then as it's woven, you kind of can't tell where it starts and where it ends. So I'm using the carrot, and I'm going to put my slip knot on my hook, and I'm going to chain 37. Okay, so now we're going to work in the back bar of the chain, and I do this for a lot of my crocheted cords that we weave into knots. So this is the front of your chain, and it looks like a bunch of V's stacked on top of each other, or a braid. And then on the back we have all these bumps, and we're going to work into those bumps right like that. So I'm going to skip the first chain and single crochet in the next chain and the chain after that. Then I'm going to put 2 single crochets in the next chain. Just put my hook right back into that same chain, then single crochet in the next, and then 2 single crochets in the chain after that. 1, and then put it right back into that same stitch. Next, I'm going to single crochet in the next 15 chains. So far I have this turn in my cord because I added those single crochets, and then I have this long length. And now I'm going to create the next turn in the cord. So I'm going to put 2 single crochets in the next chain. 1, right back into that same one, 2, then single crochet in the next one, then 2 single crochets in the next chain. 1, 2. And now I'm going to single crochet in the last set here of chains, which should be 13. So you can see I have a cord that has a bend on either side with a long length of single crochets in between. So I'm going to cut about 6 inches from the end of the cord, yarn over, pull through to fasten off, and now we're going to work another row right on top of this one, and we're going to start at that first stitch that we did, and we'll work around and on top to make our cord thicker. So you want to put your slip knot on your hook and find that first stitch right here, and you're going to put your hook into that first single crochet, yarn over, pull up a loop, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, and that's called join with a single crochet. And then we're going to single crochet into the next stitch, and now we're going to put 2 single crochets in the next one. 1, 2, Then we're going to single crochet in the stitch after that. And then here in this next one, we're going to create the point that is in each of the cords. So we're going to put a single crochet, chain 2, and then single crochet again into that same stitch. You'll see how that creates this nice point. Then we'll single crochet into the next stitch, and then work 2 single crochets into the next stitch. And that completes the first bend and first point in this cord. Now we're going to work in each of the next 15 stitches and just do single crochet across. 1, 2, and continue for 15. Okay, so you can see how this is making our cord thicker. And now we're going to do the second point. So we'll put 2 single crochets in this next stitch, then a single crochet in the one after that. Now we'll do what we do for the point. So we'll put a single crochet, chain 2, and then single crochet right in that same stitch, then single crochet in the next stitch, and then 2 single crochets in the next stitch. And then we're going to work a single crochet in the remaining 13 stitches to complete the 2 rows of the cord. And I'm going to cut about 6 inches from the end. And this is now cord 1 without the edging. And your cord should be approximately, if we were to measure it around here, approximately 11 inches long, if we were to stretch it out, and about 3/4 of an inch thick. But next we're going to add the edging. And remember, I liked this light orange color. Probably looks kind of white on the video, but it's a very soft orange color, and I'm going to put the slip knot on my hook, and I'm going to find the beginning again of my cord. This is where I started with the short end before the curve, and I'm going to work into that back loop of each stitch. Normally we work under both stitches like this, both loops, but I'm going to put my hook into that back loop, and I'm going to work a slip stitch nice and loosely. Yarn over and pull through everything, and I'll do that all the way around both sides of the cord. Now when I get to that chain 2 space at the point, here's my chain 2 right here, and I'm going to put a slip stitch into the first chain, then I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to put a slip stitch into the second chain, and that just helps accentuate the point. And then I'm going to continue around the cord with my slip stitch. So I'll show you what to do and how to start working the slip stitch on the other edge of the cord. But just keep going till you get to that next chain 2 space and do the same thing I did on the first one. Slip stitch in the first chain, chain 1, then slip stitch in the second chain. Here I am at the next chain 2 space, so I'm going to slip stitch into the first chain, chain 1, and then slip stitch into the next chain. And then I keep on trucking with my slip stitch in the back loop along this outer edge of the cord. Here I am at the end of the outer edge of the cord. You can see I went all the way around, and now I'm going to work across this short edge. So I'm going to chain 1 and then just insert my hook into the side of the last stitch, do another slip stitch, chain one again, insert my hook into the side of the next stitch or the next row, and then chain one again. And now I'm ready to work along the other side of the cord. And I'll do the same thing, inserting my hook through the back loop only, and I'll continue to work the slip stitches. Now when we get to the inside of the first bend, we're going to skip a stitch. So I'll show you how that works. So you could see here, see how this is the inside, right opposite the point. We're going to end up skipping that stitch right there. If we put a slip stitch in there, it kind of hurts the bend and it doesn't make your cord look as good. So I'm going to slip stitch all the way up until that center stitch on the inside of the bend, and I'm just going to skip it and work a slip stitch in the next stitch. That's it. And I'll do that on the other bend, and when I get to the end of the cord, I'll fasten off. So I've gotten to the end here. I don't have to go across that short edge because it won't show. And here we have cord number 1 complete. So remember, you're going to make 2 of these just like this. Now we're ready to work on cord number 2. We only need to make 1 of these, and I'm going to use green so when we go to weave the cords it really stands out and it'll be easier to see the pattern. For this cord you'll need about 12 stitch markers. If you don't have stitch markers, you could use safety pins, a piece of yarn, or even twist ties or a paper clip. You just need something to help you mark your stitches, and it'll make it easier when we create row 2 of this cord. So the first step is you're going to chain 93. Now while you have your stitch markers here, we can use them for another purpose. Since 93 is quite a bit, you can use them to help you count your chains. I tend to count in batches of 20. So here's 20 right here, and then you can use a stitch marker to mark the 20th chain, and that way if you get interrupted you just have to go back to sets of 20 instead of recounting the whole 93 long chain and having to start over. So if you want to do that, you can do 4 sets of 20. Here you can see I've made 4 sets of 20. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that brings me to 80 chains. And now I just need 13 more. And now I have 93 chains. Now we're going to work into this chain just like we did for cord number 1. We're going to turn it over onto the back side and work into those back bumps or back bars. I'm going to skip the first chain, and I'm going to put my hook into the second chain and work a single crochet. And I'm going to do that in the next 4 chains as well. So I have a total of 5 single crochets here at the beginning. 3, 4, 5. Okay? So now we're going to put a bend in the cord. Remember, cord 2 has 4 curly cues or twists or turns, so we have to start working on them now. So what we're going to do is we're going to put 2 single crochets in the next stitch, and we're going to mark the first one with a stitch marker. So So I put 2 single crochets in here, and the first one's marked. And this, from here on, we will be doing this step 3 times. Then I'm going to put 1 single crochet in the next stitch, and I'm also going to mark that. And then I'm going to put 2 single crochets in the stitch after that. 1, 2, and this time I'm going to mark the second single crochet. So you're going to have 4 sets of these bends with 3 stitch markers right in a row. Next, I can remove my stitch markers from counting. Those were just to help me get to those 93 chains. Now I'm going to put a single crochet in each of the next 20 chains. So this is what I should have so far. I have my first bend with stitch markers here, and then 20 single crochets. Now I'm going to repeat what I did before with the 2 single, then 1 single, then 2 single, then 20 single crochets. So I'll do that one more time for you. So I'm going to put 2 single crochets in the next stitch and mark the first one. Then I'm going to put a single crochet in the next stitch and mark that one. Then I'm going to put 2 single crochets in the stitch after that. 1, 2, and mark the second one. Okay, so there I have my 3 stitch markers and my next curve, and then I'm going to put a single crochet in each of the next 20 chains. Now I have 2 bends in my cord, you could see here, and 2 sets of 20 single crochets. So I'll do that repeat one more time, and then I'll meet up with you and show you how to finish this row 1. So I finished my last repeat of the 3 repeats, and now we're going to put the last bend in the cord by doing the same thing again. 2 single crochets in the next stitch, mark the first one, single crochet in the next stitch, and mark it, and 2 single crochets in the next stitch. And mark it. So my last bend, and then I should have 15 stitches here, 15 chains, and I'm going to work single crochet in each of those. Okay, so I'm going to cut about 6 inches off, yarn over and fasten off. And let's see what our cord looks like so far. So we have our first bend, then our second bend, then our third bend, and our fourth bend with 3 stitch markers each. So that's what we have here. So now we're going to start at the beginning and work one more row to finish off this cord. Now we're ready to work on row 2 of cord 2. So I take the same color that I was working with and put my slip knot on my hook, and I'm going to find the beginning of cord 2. So this was the end with our 15 single crochets. So the other side is the beginning. And I'm going to join with a single crochet. So what you do is you find the first stitch right here, And I'm going to put my hook under both loops and then yarn over, pull up a loop, 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 2. That's join with single crochet, and I'm going to work in the next 4 stitches with a single crochet as well. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now you'll see with the stitch markers how easy this second row is going to be. So for the first stitch marker, you're going to put 2 single crochets in there. For the second stitch marker, you're going to do the point that we did in the other cord, where you're going to single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. And then for the third stitch marker, you're going to put 2 single crochets there. For all other stitches, you're just going to work 1 single crochet. So I'll show you, it'll be easy. So here we have our first stitch marked with a stitch marker. Put 2 single crochets in there. 1, 2. Then I just have a regular stitch here, so I'm just going to put 1 single crochet in there. Now my second stitch marker, I'm going to do single crochet, chain 2, and then single crochet again, all in that same space, same stitch, and that gives us that nice point. Then I have another stitch right here, not marked, so I just put a single crochet in there. And then my third stitch marker of this set, I'm going to put 2 single crochets in there. 1 and 2. And that gives us the nice point, and this is going to curl around like this. Okay, so that's all we need to do. So now I'm going to single crochet in each stitch until I get to my next set of stitch markers, and I'll do the same thing. 2 in this one, the point in this one, and then 2 in this one. This helps it go really quickly, and you don't have to count stitches because we mark them as we went. So here I am, first stitch marker, put 2 stitches in here, 1, 2, and then 1 in the next one. My second stitch marker, or the center one, single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, all in that stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, and then 2 in the last stitch marker. And now I have another pointed bend. So continue that, and after you've done the last set of stitch markers, just single crochet in the remaining 15 stitches across to the end of the cord. Here I'm working on that last section of 15 single crochets after my last set of stitch markers. 13, 14, 15, cut about 6 to 8 inches away, yarn over and pull through, so I fasten off. And let's see what our cord looks like now. So we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 points. Here's what cord 2 would look like before we put on the edging, and you can see the 4 bends with points. 1, 2, 3, 4. So to begin the edging, I'm going to put my slip knot on my hook of a contrasting color, and I find the beginning of this cord. Remember, it's the one with the short end. And I'm going to first start on the outside edge. Remember, normally we put our hook under both of these loops, But for this edging, I'm going to put my hook only through the back loop, like this. And I'm going to yarn over and pull through everything. That's a slip stitch. And nice and loosely, I'm going to work a slip stitch around both edges of the cord. And just like with cord number 1, when we get to the chain 2 space, which is right here at our point, I'm going to put a slip stitch in the first chain, chain 1, and then a slip stitch in the next chain. And that just helps keep that point there. And then continue on with my slip stitch until the next point. So the only difference that we're going to do for this cord that we didn't do for cord 1 is that when we get in here, when we work on the other side and we go to the inside of these bends, we're definitely going to skip this stitch right here like we did on cord 1, but we're going to skip another stitch on the inside. So we'll skip that one, slip stitch in that one, and then skip another one, and then continue on. That's the only difference, and I'll show you how to do it when we get there. By adding this slip stitch edging, it really helps the design of the knot to stand out, and you get to see all the over and unders, and it adds to the illusion that you can't figure out where the knot began and where the knot ends. Just like we did on cord 1, when we get to the end of the first side, we chain 1, put a slip stitch in the side of the next stitch, chain 1 again, put a slip stitch in the side of the next stitch, chain 1, and then we're ready to work along the other side of the cord with our slip stitches. Now here we're approaching that first inside bend where the point is, so we're going to skip that stitch right there like we did for cord 1. Okay, so you can see it's right there opposite the point. We're going to skip that one, put a slip stitch in the next one, and then we're going to skip another one and then put a slip stitch in the next. So that's what you want to do on all of the inside of these bends in your cord. These twist quite a bit. So by skipping 2 stitches, it really helps the cord to curl around and follow the knot path. So continue that until you get to the end of this side, and then you can fasten off. Here is what our cord number 2 looks like with all the edging, and you can see the 4 points, and we have a short end, which is the beginning, and then this longer end, which is the end. Now we're ready to weave the Celtic knot. You want to gather a piece of corkboard. You need one that's about 8 inches across. Mine's a little bit bigger. It's 12 by 12, and it's 1/4 of an inch thick. And I like to put a 1/2 inch thick piece of styrofoam underneath it. Just helps protect my work surface. And then you'll want to print out one of the Celtic Afghan Square diagrams. Now there are 2 that come with this pattern, one for right-handers and one for left-handers. As you notice, it won't be able to print all the way out to this point right here, but that's okay. It's easier to have it all on one piece of paper than trying to piece it together. So this is a guide. It's not perfect, not perfectly symmetrical, but it'll help you make the knot. So you want to print out in color, will help you the best. And then you'll also need a bunch of straight sewing pins. So what I like to do is pin the diagram to my corkboard, and then before we start weaving, it's always a good idea to take a look at the diagram. So because I color coded it, you can see that there is the green path, an orange path, and a white path. And we've made 3 cords that will correspond with these paths. The green cord is going to start at the square. The orange cord is going to start at the asterisk, and the white cord is going to start at the circle. So what I recommend doing is starting at the square, go ahead and follow the arrows and trace the path with your finger so you see where you're headed. This helps your brain to register the puzzle of the Celtic knot. Then put your finger on the asterisk and go ahead and follow this cord around, and then this one like so. Now I want to show you something. When you're going to weave the orange and the white path, you're going to be doing a lot of over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under. You're going to be doing a lot of weaving, especially with the white one. That will be our last path that we're going to use, and you'll have a lot of over-unders. So I experimented with weaving this, and I discovered that even though the green cord we've been calling cord 2, it's easier to weave this one first. So you want to start with the beginning of cord 2, and it's the one with the short end. Remember, the other end of the cord has a much longer piece. So it's the one with the short end, and you're going to match this up with the square on the diagram. Go ahead and pin that in place, and then I like to try to pin where the points are. Match up the point on the cord with the point on the diagram. And I'm going to follow the green path this way. So I pass over where I began. And if you'd like, you can take that pin out and repin so it stays in place. And I'm going to head down to here and do the next turn or curve. And yeah, the point's not there, but I could draw it in with my pen or eyeball it just like that. Wherever you want to pin, you can pin. It's like having an extra hand to help you hold the cord in place. So there's no wrong and right way to do it. And then I'm going to follow down and around this way. And again, match up the point, cross my cord over, and follow down and around this way. And last one, another point right there. And so you can see all of these times we're passing over the cord, the earlier part of the cord. So it's very easy. And these yarn tails we're going to use later, so we don't want to get rid of those just yet. And the ends of the cord will be hidden under this section of the cord. So even right now, you can't tell where the cord begins and where the cord ends, because we've hidden it underneath. Okay? So there we go for the first step. Next we're going to do the orange path. So I'm going to pick my orange one. Remember, these cords, cord 1, are the same, and you want to start again with the short end. The other end has this long extension. So we're starting here, and I'm going to tuck these yarn tails underneath. Just easier that way. But if you look here at the diagram, you can see the asterisk, and that's where I want to place the beginning of this cord. And then I match up the point to the point, like so. And I can even put a pin right there so this little section doesn't pop out. Now I want to look at my diagram, and And I can see that I'm going to go over this cord. And then what's happening here? Well, the white cord is not here yet, so we can just skip all this. And then what do we do with the green cord? We're going to go under it over here. So that's really all there is to it for the second cord that we're doing. Okay, put this the other way. And then we're coming up on another point. So I'm going to match up the point to point. And that's what I have so far. Now I'm going to peek at the diagram, and I see that the orange is going over the green. Again, the white's not here, so we can skip this. And then I'm going to go under the green here, because that's the end, and I'm going to meet up with where I began. So I go over this one, and then again, I'm going to tuck these yarn tails underneath and put the end of the cord under there like so. And I'll pin it in place so it doesn't get lost. All right, so now we have the trickiest part, but it's really not that difficult. I'm going to take my second cord number 1, and if I look at the diagram, right here is that black circle where it's going to begin, and I'm going to tuck it under this green cord. Same thing, I can have the yarn tails go out that way. Tuck it under like that and pin it in place so it doesn't pop out. And now I'm going to take the cord and I'm going to work this way down to this last point. So if I peek at the diagram, I see that I go over first. And then I'll give you a tip. Because this is our last cord, I know that it's going to alternate over and under. So if I started with over, this will be under, then over, then under. And if you were to peek at the diagram, you would see that. Now, if you'd like, you can always have a printout of the diagram next to you, like this. So, once you get all the cords on here, it gets kind of crowded. So you can have this next to you and you can see, okay, I'm going over, then the white is going under, then it's going over, and then under. So that's a little tip for you if you want to print out a second one. I print it out in black and white, so it's easy to see. And here we go. Over, under, keep going. Make sure you don't flip your cord. Obviously all the cords are right side facing. Over and under. So there we go. That's our first pass with this cord. And then I'm going to match up the points again. Point to point right here on the diagram. And crochet is very stretchy, so if I'm having a hard time reaching down there, I just pull it a little bit. And now we're going to work our way back up so we meet up with where we began. And if I peek at the diagram, I see that I have to go over and then under, over, and then I should end with an under because that's where we started. So we go over, under, over this one, and then we meet up with under right where we started at the black square. And I'm just pulling these yarn tails through like so. If I want, I can pin that end down there. So there we go. That's how you weave the Celtic knot for the Celtic Afghan square. So next we are going to sew the ends together, and then we're going to add stitches around the outside to turn it into the larger 12 by 12 square. So what I like to do at this point is where each of the cords began, so where those little ends are, is I take the pins out and I pin them sideways like this. This prevents everything from coming undone. Like so, that should be enough. And then I take all the rest of the pins out because they were just helping hold it in place. And if you have woven it correctly, everything should kind of lock in place nicely. See? And we added all those extra single crochets, remember, around the curves, so it helps them to lay nice and flat as well. So let me show you how we sew the ends together. So this is the right side. I'm going to turn my knot over, and I'll do the bright orange first because that's easier to see. I do take the pins out at this point, that way I can make sure the ends meet up with each other. Okay, so do you see those, the two ends here? And I just use these yarn tails. So I take my yarn needle and thread the yarn tail onto there. And just go through one side of the cord and then the other one. I'll bring it in a little closer for you. Like that. And I do this on all the cords, and it's underneath, so it's not going to show. And then what I also like to do is I like to just take, here, I'll back it up a little bit. I like to take two of the yarn tails and tie in a double knot, and that really makes sure that that's not going to come apart on me. And then later I use these yarn tails to either sew the knot together or accentuate some of the points. I'll show you later, but I like to leave them for now. So go ahead and sew together all the ends. So there's two other spots here, and then we'll be ready to add the stitches around the outer edge. Here is your completed woven Celtic knot motif, and it should be approximately 8.5 inches from point to point, the farthest points that is. And for the next bunch of stitches, we're going to work around the edge of this, and we're going to fill in all these gaps here, and we're going to work behind this slip stitch edging. So let me show you close up what that would look like. So here is our slip stitch edging, and we're going to work behind it in these loops that you see right here. And because they're different colors, it's easy to see. We're going to put our hook through these green loops here. And if you'd like, you can work through more than one loop. You can put your hook through two, and I recommend that because it makes it even more secure, especially if you're turning this into a blanket. It'll get pulled on, and you don't want there to be big gaps around your knot. So you can either work in that loop or that loop and another one. Okay? Now to show you where we're going to be working and how the stitches are going to work, we're going to do the same thing across every side. So we're going to start here at one of, I'm calling these corner points, and we're going to work along here like so, and then whatever we do there, we're going to repeat because it looks the same going across this side, and so forth. Okay? So I put my slip knot on my hook, and I'm going to use this white color so it's easier for you to see. And we're going to start right behind this chain one space at the corner. Okay, I'll zoom in a little bit again. And I just want to find some loop back here or two. And I'm going to join with a single crochet. So I put my hook in, a yarn over, pull through the stitch, 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 2. Now I'm going to do a single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. And I just find that back loop there behind the slip stitch edging. And this does take a little bit of time, but it's so worth it when you see the finished results. Okay, so I just did 3 single crochets and I'm working around this corner point. Next I'm going to work a half double crochet in the next stitch. So I yarn over, put my hook in, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 3, and then I'm going to do a double crochet in the next stitch. Yarn over, hook in, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And by doing different height stitches, it helps us even out the side. Now the next stitch is probably the trickiest stitch of the whole project. And what we're going to do is we're going to work a treble crochet, but we're going to insert our hook into this stitch here and into the adjacent stitch on the next cord. That way the treble crochet will be nice and in the center of this gap. Now the other thing we want to keep in mind is we're going to want to make sure that we have enough stitches right here for the next set. So we're going to work backwards. So we're going to put a single crochet behind this point. Then we're going to do a single crochet next to it. Then we'll have 2 half doubles and 1 double crochet right here. So we're going to have 1 stitch here and then 4 down here. 1, 2, 3, 4 before we get to our treble. So I just need to pull this up and make sure I put the treble here in the 5th stitch. Okay, I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to yarn over twice and I'm going to insert my hook into this side, this cord that I was working on. Let's make sure I get my hook through all the strands of the yarn. And then I'm going to insert the hook before I move on with the stitch into that 5th stitch over here. So we have the 1 at the point, then 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th stitch right here, like so. So it has like 2 bases, you could say. Then I yarn over and pull through both of those, and now I complete the treble crochet as normal. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And you could see that creates this tall stitch that fills in the gap. Okay, and now we're going to do those stitches up this side of the cord. So I'm going to put a double crochet in the next one, then a half double in the next 2, 1, 2, and then I'm going to put a single in the next one. And see how that, because we used all the different height stitches, it made for a nice even line across the top. And here we are at that top point, so we're going to put a single crochet right behind that. So now we're going to work similar stitches, but a little reversed, filling in this gap right here. So we're going to do the same thing we did here, just in reverse order. So I'm going to single crochet in the next stitch. Then I'm going to work a half double crochet in the next two. And then a double crochet in the next one after that. Okay, you see how that's filling it in? And now I'm ready to do that 2-stitch treble. That's what I'm calling it. Okay, so I do need to work back again from this point over here, so I have enough stitches and everything's in order. So it's going to be 5 stitches as well. So we're going to have a single crochet here behind the corner point, and then we're going to work 5 stitches here. And we actually want to go into the 6th stitch. So I'll show you again. So we'll have a single crochet there, and then we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches there. So we need to do our treble right into that stitch. So I'll just leave my yarn needle there so I don't forget. Yarn over twice. Put my hook into the next stitch on the current cord. Just like that. And then move over here to this stitch on the next cord. Then yarn over and pull through both of those stitches first. 4 loops on my hook, and then yarn over, pull through 2, through 2, through 2. And there we go. Working on filling in all those gaps so that we end up with a nice square shape. Okay, so for the next one, I'm going to put a double crochet in the next stitch. And then a half double crochet in the stitch after that. And then I'm going to work 3 single crochets, 1 in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3, and then put a single crochet right there behind the corner point. And here you can see how the stitches fill in the gaps and create a nice straight edge. Now at the corner, we're going to chain 1 and put a single crochet in that same stitch behind the corner point to create the new corner. And now we're going to repeat all that we did along here along each side. So if you need to rewind and just re-watch, I'll explain it one more time. So you have a single crochet here, then 1, 2, 3 singles, half double, double. Then you have your fancy 2-stitch treble, then you have a double, 2 half doubles, a single, and then a single behind the point. And then we do the same thing in reverse order. So you have a single here, 2 half doubles, double, then another 2-stitch treble, then double, half double, then 3 singles, and then at the corner, single crochet, chain 1, single crochet. So repeat that around, and I'll show you what it looks like. I've gone all the way around with my edging, and I've come up to that first single crochet we did behind this first corner point, and I'm going to put a single crochet into that same stitch that I put my starting single crochet, chain one and then slip stitch into that first single crochet to close up the round. And this is what you should have so far. Let's take a look. Okay. And yeah, it's not perfectly straight. It'll straighten out with our next round, which will be really simple. Now, if you want, you could mark those chain one spaces at each corner. You could do it as you make them, or you could do it afterwards. You don't even have to mark them if you don't want, but sometimes it helps when you're cruising along doing our second round of edging. So I'm just going to mark those so while I'm crocheting they're easy to find. So just mark all those chain one spaces at all of your corners. So round two is going to be fairly simple. We're just going to do a bunch of double crochets. So to start, we're going to chain 3, and then we're going to work a double crochet in each stitch across until we get to that chain 1 space. This will help even out our edging and give us a little more space around the knot. Again, I'm using a different color for each section of this project just so it's easier for you to see where everything goes. But if you put this the edging all in one color, it helps with the illusion of building this square shape, and it's harder to tell how you did it. Okay, so there you see I've gone across with just double crochet, and now that I'm at that chain 1 space, I'm going to chain 1, then I'm going to work a double crochet into that chain 1 space there, and then I'm going to chain 1 again. And these chain 1 spaces are going to be markers for our next round. And then I just continue on with double crochets across this side. And I'll do the same thing. I'll work double crochets across to the chain 1 space. I'll chain 1, double crochet in here, chain 1, and then repeat around the next 2 sides. Here you can see I've gone around with my double crochets around for my second round of edging, and I've come up on my last chain 1 space right here. So I'm going to chain 1, take out my stitch marker, and double crochet right into that chain 1 space, and then chain 1 and slip stitch to the top of the chain 3 space, chain 3 starting chain. Okay, and there I go. I have my 2 rounds right around the Celtic knot motif all set, and now we're going to add these sections right here, these triangles, one at a time, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that will turn this diagonal square into a 12 by 12 inch blanket square. And diagonally, this should be about 10 and a half, and from side to side, it's about 8 inches square at this point. That's what you should have. So I'm going to fasten off and yarn over and pull through to make a nice knot. And now we're going to start this section right here. Now we're ready to start triangle 1, and what we do here we're going to do on all 4 sides. So you want to turn your project so you can see one side, and we're going to begin here in the first chain 1 space next to that center double crochet at the corner. Remember, at each corner you have a chain 1, double crochet, chain 1. So we're going to start right here at that chain 1 space, and you put your slip knot on your hook and just insert your hook into that space, yarn over, pull up a loop, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2. And we're just going to work double crochets across for this first row. We're going to be working a lot of decreases because we want the side to get smaller and smaller so it has a point at the top like a triangle. So double crochet across up until that first chain 1 space. So here's my last double crochet, and here's that first chain 1 space, and I'm going to put a single crochet in that, and then that is the end of row 1 of our triangle. We'll have a total of 6 rows. Now we're ready to do row 2. So we're going to turn our work, chain 1, and we're going to skip this first stitch, and then we're going to work a double crochet 2 together over the next 2 stitches. So skip the first and then double crochet 2 together. We're going to do a lot of those. You yarn over, put your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through just 2. That's basically half of a double crochet. Then we're going to do that again in the next stitch. Yarn over, put your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, then yarn over, pull through just 2. Now you have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. And that's bringing 2 double crochets so that they have the same top, and it decreases along this side. Now we're going to work double crochets across to our last 5 stitches. So this part's easy, just a bunch of double crochets. And we want to keep going until there's only 5 stitches left. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we need to do 1 more. And now we're going to do a double crochet 2 together again. So yarn over, put my hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through just 2, then yarn over, put my hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through just 2, 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. And then we're going to leave these 3 stitches unworked. And this will help us to create that triangle shape. So we're going to do another row, row 3. We're going to chain 1 and turn. And of course, I should have mentioned that you will start the triangle with the right side facing. So now we're going to skip the first stitch again and do a double crochet 2 together over the next 2. Yarn over, hook in, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through just 2, yarn over, hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through just 2, then yarn over, pull through all 3. Then double crochet across until there's 4 stitches left. So if I check here, I have, this is 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to need to do 2 more here. Okay, so I should have only 4 stitches left, and I'm going to do a double crochet 2 together over the next 2. Hook in, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through just 2, yarn over, hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through just 2, 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 3. and I'm going to leave these unworked. So that is 3 rows so far that I've completed. And don't worry that it's not perfectly straight, because we're going to be able to fix that with an edging round. So now for row 4, we're going to turn our work. Again, you could do it either order, chain 1 and turn, or turn and chain 1. And we're going to skip our first stitch and then double crochet 2 together over the next 2 stitches. Then double crochet across until there's just 3 stitches left. So our row should be getting shorter and shorter on purpose. So I can peek right here. I have 1, 2, 3. So I need to do 2 more stitches. See, I have just 3 left. You can tell by they look like the braid or V's stacked on top of each other. And then I'm going to do the double crochet 2 together again, and leave that remaining stitch unworked. So you could see how I'm starting to create a triangle. So now we're on row 5, and we're going to chain 1 and turn. We're going to skip our first stitch again and then double crochet 2 together. Then we're going to double crochet across until there are 2 stitches left. Okay? One, 2, so I have 1 more to do. Okay, you could see those 2 right there, and then I'm going to do double crochet 2 together over those last 2 stitches. And now our last row, chain 1, turn, and by this point you should have this many stitches left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm going to skip that first stitch, double crochet the next 2 together, then double crochet in the next stitch, and then double crochet the next 2 together, and I leave that last stitch unworked. And there we go. That's my triangle side. So now we're going to repeat the same 6 rows on all the sides of the square. So I fasten off for this one, and you'll see how this, by adding 4 triangles, it will turn this into a square shape. So if you need to rewind and go back to the chapter that has row 1 of the triangle, just go ahead and do that, and I can talk you through each one as you work on them. Remember, there are timestamps in the description below with each section of this video, so you can find your place quickly and easily. Here I have completed all 4 triangles, and I did each one in a different color, and I really like how this looks. It gives away a little bit how everything's put together, but it just has a different look, and I really like it. So you might want to do that with your squares, and then combining them with other squares will create interesting geometric patterns. So your square at this point should be approximately 11 inches across, give or take a ½ inch or so. You can wet block this to stretch it to 12, but we're going to put one more round of stitches to finish it off, because it's, you know, a little lumpy here, and that'll help make it all nice and straight. But first we want to look at the sides of the big square. And if you look here, you can see, because we started in the chain one space on either side of the center double crochet at the corners, we have a little bit of a gap. So I just want to use my yarn needle and these yarn tails. And again, if you did it all the same color, you won't be able to see this stitching at all. But I just want to sew up that gap by attaching those two single crochets right here as if they were attached by a slip stitch. That's it. And it's like having a chain or a slip stitch above this center double crochet. And you can see how that eliminates that gap. So you want to do that on all the sides. See how that has a gap? We're just going to sew that together on all the sides. And then we'll be ready to put our last round of stitches. One other thing that I wanted to say about our corners here is that that last stitch where you fasten off, that's going to be the new corner. So even though you have a bunch of stitches here from that last row, and technically it's kind of like 3 stitches wide, if you pull on that corner, that pull on that yarn tail and that stitch, that creates the perfect spot for your corners. So in order to begin our last round, I'm going to do a single crochet edging. But if you need more width to your square, you can do a half double crochet edging, or double crochet, or even treble crochet, or you could do a combination of those stitches. You could do more than one round if you want it to be larger, or you just need help getting it up to the 12" by 12" to match your other squares from the Moogly Crochet Along. So I'm going to start anywhere but a corner. So it doesn't really matter. I'll start right here, because you'll see that some of the edge have this nice even loops because they're the tops of stitches that we didn't work into yet. So I'm just going to join with a single crochet. I have my slip knot on my hook, yarn over, pull through the stitch, yarn over, pull through 2. And these are easy because I can see the tops of the stitches. And now I'm going to work across here, just inserting my hook into the side of my square, trying to evenly space out the single crochets. And when I do this, I like to kind of check it every 3 to 5 stitches, lay it down, see if it's nice and even and not getting too roughly, meaning I'm putting too many, or it's pulling too tight and I'm not putting enough. So I just eyeball it. So any amount of stitches would work. You don't have to count stitches for this unless you're trying to match up other squares, and then yes, you definitely want to try to have the same amount across these sides as your other squares. And remember, this is going to be my corner where that yarn tail is, so I'm heading towards that. So here's that last stitch, and I'm going to put my hook around it, and then chain 1 to just give me some space to go around, turn my square, and start working on the other side. And that's all there is to it. So I'm going to go around the whole square, evenly spacing my single crochets. I've gone all the way around with my single crochet edging, and now I'm going to pull out the yarn tail without yarning over, and I'm going to put that yarn tail on my yarn needle, and I'm going to do an invisible join. So I'm going to go under the 2 loops of the first single crochet of the round, pull it through like that, and then I'm going to go back down through the center, through the middle of my last single crochet. I'm basically mimicking another stitch, and there we go. By doing that, you can't see where the round ends and where it begins. And then I like to weave in this yarn tail here, and maybe even tie it in a knot with one of the other yarn tails on the back. So there we go. That's how you put together and make the Celtic Afghan Square. Now, some of the finishing touches you'll want to do. If you look here, in some places it's kind of gappy sometimes. Some of it just depends on how tight you did a stitch or the difference in the yarn. I used all Super Saver here, but some of it just turned out thicker than others. So that's why I like to do the weaving of the ends in at the very end. So if I were to take one of the white pieces of yarn, one of the white yarn tails, I could go around and just kind of sew together some of those gaps in that first round of edging. So I'd come here, you could see here some gaps here, and I can just go through the backs of the stitches like so, and join them together on the back a little bit. You don't have to do this, this is optional, but it's a nice way to finish it off. And then you don't have your stitches pulling apart as much. And then if you'd like, you can use your yarn tails to sew down the cords. You can just whip stitch. I'll show you how to do that real quick right here. Now I would use the same color, but just for ease of showing you, just grab a loop on either cord like so and whip stitch the cords together. This is a pretty tight weave, so the cords, if you wove them correctly, shouldn't be going anywhere, but if you want to prevent, you know, some of it, now these are anchored together and you won't, if you don't want these gaps and holes, you can sew them all together. And this is a great thing to do while you're watching TV because you don't really have to think too much about it. And then as far as wet blocking, I wet blocked my other square, and what I did is I just soaked the whole thing with cool water, then I rolled it in a clean towel and squeezed out the excess water, and then I laid it out on my corkboard, which is 12 inches by 12 inches. So I had something that I knew was exactly 12 inches, and once it was all wet, I put a towel over the top, and then I used pins to pull it into the shape I wanted, which is this 12 inches. And it stretched just fine, and I put pins all along the side and let it dry overnight, and it came out nice and flat and very finished and professional looking. So there you have it. That's how to make the Celtic Afghan Square. I hope you enjoyed making this square. Make sure to subscribe and give this tutorial a thumbs up, and let me know in the comments below which colors you chose and whether you decided to make each of the triangles a different color or blend them all together. Thanks for watching.